This one almost feels like a public service announcement, right?
Oh, yeah. Not nearly enough people know about Josephine Baker.
Yeah, African-American who was born in America, who really found her success as an entertainer in France.
Yeah.
And then, well, I guess we should talk about Act 1.
Act 1, she is homeless at like age 12,
Right.
running around on the streets begging producers of vaudeville shows to let her perform. Because she was like dancing on street corners and stuff like that. And she ends up getting parts as like a chorus line, usually the comical like Tim Conway type character at the end. Everyone's doing their kicks and dances and
Dorf on
everything.
Golf
Yeah.
is over there on the edge.
Yeah, and she's screwing up, and then finally she gets it right with extra flourishes. That was her role, but she was a bit player.
She was ostentatious, and she, number one, had an amazing voice, had an outrageous outsized character, was not ashamed to really let her sexuality show. For an African American in American vaudeville was extraordinary.
Kind of like 1920. Yeah,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
scandalous. It really was.
So in vaudeville, she's doing well, but then this is the age of the beginning of the silver screen, right?
Right, so she moves over to France. And she gets her citizenship there, and she starts to solo shows. She becomes the first African American to star in a motion picture.
This is the part where normally the story ends. Somebody's awesome, they did an awesome thing, they went to a place where they were most appreciated, end of story.
Yeah, she becomes one of the world's first black superstars, and then World War II breaks out.
Call it a day. I'm gonna be in my bunker if you need me.
Yeah, but no, being a celebrity was not enough for her. She gets approached by French intelligence and becomes a spy for the French resistance against the Nazis.
Sorry, it sounds to me like you just described an entertainer becoming very popular, finding their niche, and then deciding to risk all of that to become a spy in the middle of the greatest, biggest war of all time.
Not only does she risk all of that, she uses all of that. Her name, because she was really popular in France, she achieved a level of popularity in France that she never got in the United States. She utilized that to travel around and go to parties at embassies with Italian bureaucrats and Japanese officials, the Nazis and everything, and was getting information and smuggling it all over the world.
And of course, like the discussions they would have would involve stuff like, hey, you should come over to my place. So like, oh, where is your place? Oh, really? Okay, let me just jot that down so I remember that.
Yeah.
Bunker 212 at these coordinates? Oh, okay, that's good to know. She would use like what I assume is the lemon juice invisible ink trick of writing over her sheet music secret descriptions of everything for the Allies.
Yeah, and she would get troop movements where their stockpiles were, and she moved all over the world, not just in France, but she would go to Germany, Yugoslavia, Africa, all over the place, and she traveled under the guise of, hey, I'm Josephine Baker. Nobody's gonna mess with me. And that's something that you've often referred to as painting it red.
Yes, that's a saying that mentalists and magicians have, which is basically like draw attention to the thing that you're most afraid people will find you out at. And then because they see it for what it looks like, they won't ask you what it really is.
Exactly. Since she was Josephine Baker, this big celebrity, she had this entourage, she had all of her luggage that she traveled with, and this menagerie of animals. Like her pet cheetah,
Sorry,
Chiquita,
it sounded an awful lot like you said pet cheetah.
that slept in the bed with her.
It sounded an awful lot like you said slept in the bed with her.
Yes, a pet cheetah named Chiquita. And when she would perform on stage, sometimes it would jump into the orchestra pit and terrorize the orchestra. So she had all of these animals like a goat, dogs, a gigantic pet pig,
Hang on, BRB gonna eBay a goat, a pig, and sorry, what else?
a cheetah. And so she just traveled with all these animals and everything. And so you're not looking for spy information because you're thinking, okay, no, what the hell is this spectacle?
When everything about a traveling circus is bonkers, you don't pause to think, I wonder if there's secret invisible ink information on the sheet music.
Yeah, or photos that she was smuggling inside her underwear because no one would dare strip search her. She was Josephine Baker.
Would I be a bad person if I lied and said that I named my daughter Josephine after Josephine Baker? So now we enter Act 3. She's a legitimate war hero during World War II for her spying ability abilities.
She got accolades, awarded medals of honor and everything by the French. She's highly decorated. So she returns to America after in France being a war hero and a massive celebrity. She comes back here, can't book stays at hotels.
Has to use different water fountains, Jim Crow laws. She kicks in the door and says, "What are you doing? This is dumb. Stop it."
I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about the woman who allegedly had a relationship with Frida Kahlo, was painted by Picasso, hung out in bars with Ernest Hemingway.
Yeah,
she's a legend.
She, so I assume she got back to America and just stayed quiet and stayed at home.
No, not at all. Not at all. She was hanging out in these venues, and at one point, she was asked to leave this bar, and one of her friends, who was Princess Grace Kelly of Monaco, said, "Okay, then we're all leaving too." And after that, they all left, and Princess Grace, royalty, said, "Yeah, we're never coming in here again," blacklisted this venue. And so Josephine Baker ran with that and said, "All right, I'm not going to perform for segregated audiences anymore."
Dude, and by the way, keep in mind, that kind of decision has real consequences. James the Amazing Randy, like when he decided that he would never perform for a segregated audience, he had to turn down gigs. He got on stage and then said, "Oh, wait, I see what this is," and then walked right off. That's hard to do.
Sinatra did the same thing with Sammy Davis Jr. in Vegas. When they wouldn't let Sammy Davis Jr. into some of the casinos, he said, "Okay, well, me and my gang," who basically ran Vegas at the time.
Rat Pack,
said, "Yeah, we're not going to go in there anymore." So he just broke down all those barriers. She was doing that all across the country. In fact, she was one of the speakers at Martin Luther King Jr.'s March on Washington in 1963, about 10 years before her death.
We've never done an entire episode all about appreciating one of the greatest modern rogues of all history. So I guess by default, she's our #1 modern rogue, right?
Right now, yeah. I can't imagine anyone with a more legendary story.
We're never going to rank any of them against each other. She's in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
One of the greatest modern rogues of all time.
So if you can think of other historical modern rogues that you'd like to see us cover, hit us up in the comments below and explain why.
Yeah, modernrogue.com. We got articles.